T minus 2 minutes. Minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. Minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 0.
Hey everybody, welcome back to weekly live stream, and we're going to be talking about all the different things going on within the crypto market today. So pretty cool stuff going on this week. Obviously, if you're a crypto fan, you're probably quite happy with what's been going on. Some really big kind of fundamental changes happening within the crypto market, which I think is fantastic. We'll have to we'll dive into some of this stuff in a little bit more detail to discuss kind of exactly what's going on, what we can expect, what's happened, what's happening, what will happen, all that type of good stuff. So there's a lot of different things. Something that we have actually just seen less than an hour ago, or about an hour ago, which is breaking news. The Genius Act is now finally written into law. So I think a lot of good things happening there. Maybe not some of the best things happening within the Genius Act. We can talk a little bit more about that later if we kind of care about that, but we'll see. So let's get started out. Let me check out some of the comments as they come in. So let's see, we got Muhammad and Wally Star coming in. Nice, welcome back, guys. Let's see. Nice intro song, appreciate it. Nice football jersey as well. Yes, I'm wearing Arsenal today, so this is the Arsenal away jersey, I believe. So good to see you, Ryan. Also good to see you as well. What's up? Looks like we have some interaction coming in from X as well. Not many comments coming in from X quite yet, but I am posting this on both X as well as YouTube. So if you're looking to join from either side, it looks like I can see comments coming in from X, but I don't believe I can post them. So I will be watching very closely, and I'll probably get my Twitter pulled up as well. So we'll see kind of how that goes as well. Let's see. You should get one from KVM. I'll have to check that out. I'm assuming we're talking about the soccer jerseys here. So I'll have to check that out. Let's see. I got 40 trillion mini Bitcoin. Not sure what this means, but that sounds like a lot of mini Bitcoin. That's funny. Cool. Let's see. World's biggest bull run ever is unfolding right before our eyes. Are you ready? 100% agree there. I think we're seeing some pretty crazy things happening. Of course, that is what we will be talking about here today. So stick through and kind of stick with us on all the different things that we're going to be talking about. There's a lot of different things going on, from really really, really bullish things happening from a regulatory perspective. There's really bullish things happening more from like a fundamental perspective. There's a lot of things happening from a technical perspective. I mean, just crazy things going all along kind of everywhere. So we'll be talking about all of that today. Let's see what we get into. So, all righty. First off, as I mentioned, kind of to start off the stream, we have that Genius Act now being signed into law, which is really, really good. As I have mentioned also a couple of different times on various videos. Some of you might be thinking I'm a broken record, but I promise you I'm not, because this is really, really important. We'll be taking a quick look at the ETH Bitcoin chart and just be kind of looking a little further what that means. We'll also do probably a little bit of a thing on ICP, just because I know we've got a bunch of ICP lovers and probably a decent bit of ICP watchers as well. So we'll be taking a look at the ICP chart. Looks like we're like trying to break out. It appears to kind of be struggling at kind of that same level of resistance that we're used to seeing. So we'll take a look at that in more detail as well. Then we also will take a good look at the total 2 market cap as well, because the total 2 market cap is, of course, very, very important. That is kind of what depends on alt season. Some are looking at like the total 3. I kind of forgot what the chart's called, but it's just the extra number, total 3. That's one that people have been looking at as well. We can probably pull that one up as well and take a look at that. And then we'll also just do kind of like a gut check on the market. And the important thing to understand with the market as it sits right now is things do look a little bit slightly overheated. And so it would not be super surprising to me if we saw a little bit of like kind of retracing or consolidation, but maybe not anything too crazy. If we look at like volume, I mean, volume's like $500 billion over the past 24 hours. That is a lot. Open interest is creeping up to $200 billion. Again, another lot. 24-hour liquidations are almost $1 billion, which is kind of crazy because, yes, we have seen some decently sized moves, but we haven't seen any moves too big. So what this kind of indicates to me is that this is probably a lot of people trading way too high of leverage because they're trying to play catch up. Obviously, Bitcoin has moved. Anybody who is using a reasonable amount of leverage is up massive. Anybody on Ethereum or basically any alt XRP specifically, any of those were up huge. So we'll have to, I think there's probably a lot of people probably moving up the leverage ladder to get a little bit more stuff going on there. So we'll have to see. Let's take a look at some of this stuff. So getting started, let's look at the ETH Bitcoin. Since we have talked about it on a couple of different videos recently, I'll kind of make it relatively quick. But for those of you who are new and kind of tuning in, I don't generally post too much on X from like live video content. So some of this might be relatively new for you. But if you can see here on the ETH Bitcoin chart, a really nice move up. We have seen a structure change. So you can see here, I'll kind of draw a through line instead of both. But you can see, obviously, definitely a bit of a structure change going on here compared to what we have seen over the past several years. If anything, it was like started slow and then actually even kind of like accelerated. And so now we're starting to see a little bit of that change happen, which is, of course, very, very good for both Ethereum holders as well as just altcoin holders in general. It's been Bitcoin season. It's been the only thing to hold basically. And so now we're seeing this maybe potentially start to reverse a little bit. If we look at the total 2, similar type of thing, we've actually moved well past this kind of initial zone of liquidity that I was thinking could be a little bit of a hassle to get through. Now, of course, it did take like 4 or 5 days for us to fully break through it. But we did break through it with pretty decent momentum. You now can see here, there's a pretty nice wick to the upside, potentially getting rejected at this kind of like 1.47 trillion mark. We'll have to see. Maybe the rally or the market can kind of continue to rally and push back to the upside here. But things definitely are looking pretty strong from an altcoin perspective. Again, as I have mentioned several times before, the big circle is here for a reason. Nothing gets crazy until we break through this level, because this is the all-time high level. If we zoom all the way back, you can see all-time highs were up in this range. Even back in kind of that November, December timeframe, we did not hit those highs. So Anyway, that is kind of a right sizing of where we're at within the crypto market, what the altcoins are looking like. Obviously things looking very nice for altcoins. We are not necessarily in kind of like the green zone yet, but we are definitely running up to it. Now, if you do believe that there could be an alt season coming, this is exactly why I'm saying, you should be doing this or you will miss out, is because when this starts to happen, when we break above here, in my opinion, like if we go back and let's take a look at the crypto bubbles, look very, very green over the past month. Things are looking fantastic here. Basically only a couple of note that are even red at all. Basically everything else is green. And so it's very clear to see, like, we've seen some nice moves, right? I mean, Bitcoin up 12%, ETH up 40%, Pengu up 200%, Say up almost 100%, XLN 82, XRP 57, major moves from a bunch of different coins. But what we can see, as I mentioned, we are not actually pushing into all-time high territory yet. And so things really haven't even gotten that frothy yet. So this is why, in my opinion, this is one of the better times to be positioning yourself for a potential alt season if you believe it is going to happen or can happen. Because the big thing that we should be noticing here is this is kind of like that consolidation area we might be seeing. I would imagine the market's looking a little bit overheated. And so, I would imagine we're going to be seeing a little bit of some consolidation or potentially even some pullbacks here. So this is something we definitely need to take a quick look at and make sure that like we're not actually kind of dropping back out of this range and starting to bleed off like we were prior. Like starting to establish better structure on some like higher lows is very important, and it will essentially help us continue to build up to this level. But this is all just a precursor of what we could be seeing, right? I mean, this is potentially relatively small to what we could be seeing up at this range. So you have to be making sure that you're getting prepared, you understand what you're holding, finding the biggest winners and going from there. Because if we look, you can see, maybe Bonk is a winner, maybe Pengu is a winner. You can start to look for some of the ones that have been outperforming. HBAR has done absolutely wonderfully. I talked in my video, I think it's my video coming out. No, it was actually my video this morning when we were talking about XRP. HBAR has done absolutely wonderfully. Maybe HBAR is kind of like the beta play to like the American coin, right? I mean, that's kind of been a little bit of the narrative. XRP definitely owns that narrative. But HBAR could be kind of a second place to that type of narrative. So things like that, do your research, start to look, start to get positioned properly while we're here before we get up in here. Because once we get up into this range, this is when we start to see kind of everybody and their mom get in and trying to find the next big thing in the next 100x in crypto, right? I mean, we've seen this before. If you have been in prior cycles, we've seen it before, probably going to see something similar again. So we can actually draw a quick fib to show kind of some of the levels we might be looking at kind of on the extension level here. You can also see at this set, like this is the 786 range. So the 618 is down here, kind of between this level. You could see the total 2 market cap really kind of stayed squeezed between these two levels for a pretty significant period of time before eventually breaking down. So it wouldn't be too surprising to me. We've already seen a massive rejection here at this level. It would not be too surprising to me if we maybe started to consolidate in this range before, again, ideally, hopefully breaking back out to the upside and then taking another second run at the all-time high for altcoins. That would be kind of the ideal outcome here. Now, what we can see here, total market cap about 1.44 trillion. If we were to look at a 1618 fib extension of the total to market cap, that would put us at 2.15 trillion. 2618 would be at 2.97 trillion. 3618 being 3.79 trillion, and a 4236 about 4.29 trillion. Now, to give context here, the total crypto market cap, including Bitcoin, which makes like over 50% of the total Bitcoin or the total crypto market cap, is just over 4 trillion. It has just recently broken over 4 trillion. So this type of move would be very substantial. And the total crypto market cap at this point would probably be closer to 7 trillion if I had to guess. I don't think that this is completely unreasonable. It is probably more of like the Super Bowl case, but I don't think it's completely unreasonable just because we could see kind of a little bit of a 2x over where we're at right now in the total crypto market cap. That doesn't seem completely insane. Now, of course, if you look at it at $3 trillion, that does feel a little bit more crazy. but that is something that, you know, we potentially could see. So we'll have to wait and kind of see how that goes. But these are kind of the big levels that we'd be looking for. 2.15 trillion kind of being the first one if we were to see that fib extension from all-time highs from our altcoins. So that's what we got here. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at a couple of these other comments. I don't like getting too far behind on my comments because I know some people kind of jump in and jump out. So we'll take a bit of a break here, take a look at some comments, we'll interact, and then we will also go into just assessing the market, where the market's at, where the market could be going. Should you be buying now? Should you be buying later? Again, I don't offer financial advice. I'm just going to be showing you what I'm seeing within the crypto market. You can make your own decision from there. Alrighty, so let's take a look at some of the comments. Let's see. Oh yeah, Muhammad is on his Bitcoin to 150 and then dives to 25K. If that happens, Muhammad, I mean, I would be totally happy with that. I'd be backing the truck up to buy more Bitcoin if that happened. So we'll see. Haven't seen any predictions come true yet, but it's crypto. I'm never doubting anybody here. All right, Seattle Sounders kit this season is pretty good. Yeah, I haven't actually seen that. I'm an RSL fan just because that's my local team. So I have historically had a bit of some rivalries with the Sounders when we were both good. Now RSL's just kind of mid, so I don't know that they have strong rivalries with anybody anymore. Maybe Dallas. Dallas has always been kind of rival for us. But anyway, moving on. Soul saying Sui to 0. I know you're very against the VC coins, Muhammad, and I do think I think from a purist level, I don't love the VC coins ever either. I think they have some issues, but also they seem to perform pretty well, at least for right now. So we'll see. ETH to 20K, man, would I love it. I actually have a video going live later this evening for any of you who are interested, talking about ETH specifically, because I do think kind of finally for once we have a lot to talk about with ETH, which is really good to see. We look at fib extensions getting all the way up to about, I think it's 12K. So, that obviously would be awesome. 20K would be even better. I've got a decent bag of Ethereum, which would be great. And I do think a lot of this could, potentially depend on how institutions adopt Ethereum, the kind of the adoption curve, if people are really looking to actually use it, or if it's just kind of this thing that people know of but don't really use. We'll have to see. Zebek finally moving up some. Yeah, we might take a quick look at Zebek. Zebek has been moving decently. They had a massive move and then saw a decent bit of kind of volatility. So we'll have to see there. I don't think we're quite at the point where we're going to see some of these really, really small cryptos kind of just go up with everything else. I think that's going to kind of depend a little bit on what we see in the market, but definitely I do think the time for some of these smaller coins is coming for sure. So let's take a look at ICP is going to surprise a lot of people this bull run. Man, I sure hope so. We have started to see the price. As I mentioned earlier, we might take a look at some of the ICP charts and stuff. It looks like it's starting to kind of stutter up against some of that resistance that we've seen in the high 5s and low 6s. So that kind of sucks, but we'll just have to see. I do think that over time, I think caffeine really is pretty awesome from everything that I've seen so far. So I am kind of looking forward and interested to see what that does for the ecosystem overall, as well as just kind of the narrative and the hype and all that type of stuff. So take a look at Simple AI if you have time. We can do that. I am hugely bullish on Simple AI for a multitude of different reasons. So yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that. Let's see. Perfect. More Zebek comments here. 100x is Simple AI. Honestly, especially at this point, we've seen kind of paths to this before. So I definitely think it is possible that we see 100x, which would be awesome. So we'll take a look there and see. But Yeah, the potentially some crazy stuff coming for Simple AI. And the thing that I like the most about Simple AI is it's a really strong project that, in my opinion, kind of bats consistently or outperforms a lot of these other AI projects that are 10, 15, 20, 50 times its size. So to me, it seems like a pretty obvious play. We'll be talking about that here in a second. Again, not financial advice, not a sponsored video. These are just my opinions, all that type of stuff. What's my price prediction for Say? We can talk about that a little bit later on. Say's one that's a little bit interesting because I feel like it's kind of like a spiritual sibling to Sui, just kind of because of the circumstances of how they started, what they're trying to do, their tech, the presentation, the branding. They just feel very similar. But it seems so far that Sui has kind of gotten the upper hand of things. There was a little bit of that kind of rotation when we saw like Wyoming considering making a stable coin on Sui and some of those other things. But so far, I think Sui has kind of had, I think I may have said Sui Say, but there's a lot of things there that I think kind of need to be unpacked. Also, before we continue along, I've noticed that we're over 20 minutes in, and I forgot to mention this already. But if you are tuning in and you do like and enjoy, subscribe, share, retweet, because I am posting on X as well. So, heart there and repost, and let's drive more people to the stream if you are finding the information valuable and useful. So, but yeah, I think that there's a very realistic possibility we see 2025 potentially be the year of Say and 2024 be the year of Sui, but it's just so hard to say. So far, Sui has definitely been the better performer of the two. And I just don't, this is kind of the problem, is I feel like VC coins are just such a black box to me. I feel like so much goes on behind the scenes that I don't really understand, that I have a really hard time calling heads or tails from those. So, but yeah, we can discuss that in a little bit more detail. Here's actually a comment from X coming in, which is great to see. Thank you so much for the interaction. What do you think about ETH, Sol, TRX as layer ones? I think they know about ICP and are really just trying to become brands in the crypto space, not so much tech innovators. Yeah, so this is something that a lot of people who are kind of associated or ICP fans, kind of including myself, sometimes say is that, like, it's all about the tech, but like, yes, but also no, right? I mean, the ETH, Solana, Tron, all of these, like, they have more adoption than things like ICP because they are a brand, right? People know about them. Historically, ICP has been really, really bad at that. And I think a lot of it is probably because the tech just wasn't ready. I think now that we're at the point at which the tech is starting to get ready, we're starting to see more application layer level stuff coming onto the ICP network, which is of course going to benefit the interaction, the visibility, the hype, the narratives, all that type of stuff. Caffeine AI is kind of the first one. Obviously, Utopia is one that has been coming around in the past. That one is done all right. We still haven't really seen too much of it yet, but we have definitely kind of seen a little bit of like a branding and marketing push around it. They continue to kind of come back to it. We started to see like the CK Sol, CK Bitcoin, CK ETH, all this type of stuff to help like essentially make things a bit more interoperable within the crypto space. We also have seen things like the Oizy wallet, right? Like that is an application layer on ICP. Like this is all really interesting stuff. Also, the thing that I found quite interesting is I didn't realize this, and of course Dominic Williams said this. I trust Dominic Williams. I don't think that he would lie, but I guess take that for what it's worth as a disclaimer if you're interested. But Dominic Williams had said that ICP actually was the first group to implement passkey technology, which I thought was very surprising. And you can see now that like basically everybody is starting to use passkey technology at this point. So obviously tech matters a lot, right? But a strong brand that you can rip off other people's tech, unfortunately, is kind of more valuable than having good tech. You can kind of see this a little bit with the Cosmos ecosystem as well. Cosmos has really been quite impressive, but it's just never really quite taken off because it seems like Ethereum or Solana or somebody else rips off all of their good tech before they actually can get any sort of traction. So while I do agree with the statement here, that's not necessarily a good thing for ICP per se, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to clarify here. When you think of Block, I'm not super familiar with Block. Are you talking like the publicly traded company? Or are you talking like some crypto? I'd have to take a look there. Thoughts on Kaspa? Kaspa, I think Kaspa is great. I actually did a video recently about discussing some of the things coming with Kaspa. So definitely very bullish on Kaspa. I think Kaspa is one of those that has a massively asymmetrical upside. There is kind of the risk that like nothing happens, like with everything in crypto, but I do think it does have a pretty strong narrative and could have a pretty strong upside. I just do think technologically it's behind basically everything. So it does have a decent bit of work to do to catch up there. Symbol AI. A Symbol is one that I have heard of. I will have to check that one out. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. So, Muhammad's claiming everything's going to zero again. That's funny. All right, price prediction for ICP. Yeah, we can talk about the price prediction for ICP as well. We did a video on this a couple days back as well when we were talking about ICP and what it could end up doing. So far, if we're looking at like the fib levels, we could see kind of like the $40 to $50 range being some of the kind of like major hinge points there. Of course, if ICP just absolutely blows up, that could always change. It's hard to say for sure, exactly what's going to happen there. So I try to err on the side of caution. I, of course, want to be an ICP moon boy just as much as everybody else, but I do generally like to look at the numbers and kind of look at what the numbers are saying more than anything else. And so with that, I do think that probably like the $40 to $50 range probably seems more reasonable in kind of the immediate short term. Now, if we see something crazy and caffeine like has a cursor moment, right, and it goes completely viral or something like that, then that obviously changes the math a little bit. But if we're looking purely more for like kind of batting within the bounds of reason, that's probably what I'm thinking that we see kind of short to midterm, I would say. Now, if we're talking like 2030 or something like that, then I think we could see some pretty impressive stuff. But again, it all just depends on adoption. It all depends on use. It all depends on valuable stuff being created within the ecosystem. Let's see. Andy and Wolf have made ridiculous moves since I last shilled them. Yeah, I actually have been so busy with like my real job. I haven't had a chance to look at any of these. So I do. Yeah, that's too bad. But also kind of everything has made crazy moves. So it's just kind of that type of market. But yeah, maybe if you want to provide up and to the right, if you want to provide a little bit of like a short summary of what they are and why they're great, that'd be cool, because then you have a whole bunch of people who will be able to see that. So Block Street, the new coin or rebrand of Mixi. Okay, I'm not familiar with this. Yeah, Block Street. Is this? No, that was the other one that came out. Yeah, I'll have to take a look. I'll have to take a look at this one and see kind of what goes on there. So let's see. ACH, Talent Protocol. Yeah, that's the thing, is there's so many coins out there. And honestly, there's a lot of coins doing some really interesting things, but it's so hard to keep up with all of them. So yeah, we'll have to see how some of these do. But I'm pretty interested to see just kind of, I do think if we see kind of like an alt season come around, it won't really matter what you're invested in. Generally, I think as long as it's not complete garbage, it'll probably do at least a little well. And this is the fun of alt season, right? You get into this kind of like fastest horse type of mentality where you don't necessarily want to make money. You want to make the most money. And that's when things get really unhinged and pretty crazy, is because, the winners usually win big. Like everybody wins, but the winners win freaking huge because everybody's looking to kind of have that 100x, that 1000x, that whatever. So we'll just have to see. Am I bullish on any meme coin? Honestly, I'm pretty like, I'm a pretty mid-curve kind of guy when it comes to the meme coins. I don't usually I just don't get meme coin trading generally well enough to understand what like makes a good meme coin and what gives like the virality aspect of it. The only meme coin, which to my own peril, I did not actually get into early, that I kind of called as being like a big one, was the political meme coins. I guess there were a couple of them. So it was the Trump and the Bowden ones, which those have obviously like gone down to zero. And then the other one was Peanut. I saw Peanut kind of like right after it launched. And I think by the time I saw it, it was like 5 or 10 million, but of course it went to like 1.2 billion. So would have made a fortune on that, but oh well. So yeah, for me with meme coins, I'm very much like, I'm pretty mid curve. So what I would do in terms of this type of thing is like, I would be looking at really big, like the two highest conviction meme coins I would have right now, realistically, is probably Lofi and Brett. Those are probably the two big ones that I would say, because one, Lofi is on Sui. Sui has, like we've seen that Sui has the potential to run pretty hard. It also is a pretty strong meme coin with a pretty strong community on a relatively strong chain, right? So if we see Lofi do well, or if we see meme coins do well and people start to look for kind of the next big thing, I think Lofi would be a really great beta play to that. Brett being the other one, similarly, because it's on base. Ethereum is really starting to do well. Coinbase is really starting to make a push to integrate their base ecosystem with their users. That makes 100 million buyers automatically available to buy something like Brett. And then Brett is one that like we've seen it do well. We know it has legs. It just doesn't have legs right now, right? And so I think it's really important to understand that too. So those are probably my two biggest ones. The other one is Turbo. Turbo is another one that similar type of thing. It's small. It's like it's shown that it has legs. It hasn't really reached into the upper echelons of like the Bretts and the Whiffs and the Bonks and things like that. But it does still show like it's got some pretty good like potential there. So those are probably the three meme coins I'm kind of biggest on right here. Let's see. Will Zebek go down to 0029 again this weekend? No idea. I don't really do short-term price predictions because I think there's like this, and this is one thing that I want to just kind of zoom out and kind of level up to like a bigger level. But like I think people look at like me or other people on YouTube as like these oracles that know what price is going to do. I have no idea, right? I mean, like obviously I look at the charts and I do this every day. So with that comes a level of expertise that, you know, somebody else who's, you know, maybe more like retail might not have. But that doesn't mean I'm this oracle of all knowing stuff, right? So I don't know. Maybe not. The market's crazy right now, particularly in these types of markets. I just don't know. Could go up, could go down. Hard to say. You know, like right now we're at a pretty dangerous point in the market because we're seeing the market generally, and maybe this is a good time to kind of like swap over to the market overview so we can discuss, because what we're seeing right now is kind of exactly that, right? I mean, Bitcoin's hitting all-time highs, open interest all-time highs, RSI heat map, we are sitting in strong, but we're seeing, you know, kind of more and more in this overbought range. We're seeing the crypto fear and greed index sitting at greed. We have not actually hit extreme greed yet. So that's kind of usually the point at which things are like, okay, maybe we're a little bit too crazy, right? We haven't hit any of that at all. The exchange liquidation map, though, surprisingly doesn't actually look too crazy. Like it's pretty balanced in both directions, which in my opinion is fantastic for a continued like move to the upside, right? So that is kind of the biggest thing that I'm looking at right now is like the market does to a degree look a bit overheated, but that's not to say that it's going to go down tomorrow, right? Like it could keep going. I mean, it's technically like it's overheated, but like the market average is not in overbought. We are not in extreme greed. Like there are not like flashing signals being like, yes, we are way too overbought. This is one of those ranges where it's like, could go up, could go down, you know, who really knows for sure. So that is what I would say is important. And that's why I think it's most difficult to trade in these types of time periods. Me personally, I actually think it's like so much easier. Let's go look at like, let's go look at the XRP chart. Actually, I think the XRP chart might have the like best indication of this. So if we look at the XRP, oh yeah, I normally do most of my charting on like BTCC and BloFin. So I'm gonna have to just kind of rechart this really quick. but it'll be pretty easy. So like, again, pardon me if my lines aren't exact and perfect because I'm doing it on the fly, but so generally, like, this is kind of what we saw out of XRP, right? We saw this type of thing. And this is what I would say, like, especially if you're kind of newish to crypto, this is going to be really important for you to understand pretty clearly. So you can see here, obviously, and actually let me pull up two other indicators that I use quite frequently. So we got RSI and Bollinger Bands. For those of you following the channel or who have been following the channel, like, you'll know we talk about this a decent bit, but it's for good reason. In my opinion, it's basically never wrong, right? I mean, there's no point in which when that ticks, we don't actually see a pullback. It only just depends on kind of the degree of the pullback, right? So basically what we're seeing here is we saw this consolidation level. To me, it's so much easier to like buy here or even like buy here because we're seeing a structure that's about to break and we know what's supposed to happen here. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen, right? There's really no, especially with something like XRP, we're at all-time highs, we're in price discovery. That could have been the top. It could have been this, right? And then we continue further up. It's hard to know exactly for sure. That's why in these periods of time, I generally am not actually opening any trades. I'm either sitting and doing nothing or I'm closing trades if I'm open on trades, right? So with me and kind of how I like to trade, obviously I have kind of my like buy and hold deck, but I do a lot of leverage trading and a lot of just normal spot trading as well. So for me in this type of period, it's really, really hard to say, oh yes, buy right now or don't buy right now, because we just don't know, you know. It could, like, if you look at like here, let's go back and look at XRP at this point in time. Okay, we see XRP, it's moved, it's just gone from like, why is this doing market cap? Oh, well, all right, we're going to have to look at it in market cap apparently, because I don't want to switch it and rechart everything. We can see here, you know, it goes, kind of breaks out from its like, you know, its structure here. It goes from like a 30 billion market cap to like 60 billion market cap. Okay, great. What next, right? I mean, yeah, it's going up. Okay, now it's started to come back down. And now, like, we're still pushing the top of the Bollinger Bands here. We're not outside, but we're pushing the top of the Bollinger Bands here. We're overbought on the RSI. Like, we're technically overextended, and we're at a point similar to right now where it's like, it could go up or down, right? We have no idea. Okay, well, what happens? Boom. It like goes from 60 billion to like 160 billion, right? So there's another crazy move back to the upside. And then, of course, you know, sitting here, okay, now what do? We just bought in here and it went from this to this. And now we're seeing this. It's still overbought. It's in the top of the Bollinger Bands. Now what do? Right? Oh, well, it actually does a whole lot of nothing and actually comes down a decent bit from, you know, like 130 billion down here to like 115 billion. So it's just really, really super hard to trade these types of things, in my personal opinion. Now, of course, maybe you figured it out. If you have figured it out, feel free to tell me, because I would always appreciate that. But that's something that I generally like to see, or I generally like to do, is I like to trade when there's structure and there's reasons to trade. I just don't like essentially like spinning the wheel and seeing what happens, right? So hopefully that was helpful for any of you who might be a little bit new to trading, or maybe not super familiar with like when to take a trade, when not to take a trade. Again, this is just my opinion. I am not some, you know, certified trading expert. This is just what I have found works for me. Might work for you, might not. But yeah, feel free to try it out if you're interested. Of course, you can do demo trading first in case you're trying to be a little bit conservative and want to kind of walk before you run and test things that you don't know will work or not. You can, of course, just do demo trading. Of course, I do have the links for all those in the description below if you're interested. But all right, let's let's take a look here. We got some others going on. What are your thoughts on the AI token Cookie DAO? I actually think Cookie DAO is really interesting and somewhat compelling. I do think like it's really hard to say what it'll do for sure. But I do actually think that the Cookie DAO is quite interesting, and I definitely have a lot of I've got a lot of high hopes for it. But again, we'll just have to see. A lot of these things are so kind of like narrative driven, and there's like a component of luck in addition to the narrative that you never know for sure. But I think Cookie DAO is awesome. I think for its like social metrics and social tracking, it's really good. Yeah, definitely interested to see kind of what comes of that. Let's see. ICP is crazy, and what it will do will make your faces cheese, whatever that means. I don't know what that means, but yeah, I think ICP from a tech perspective is really, really cool. I'm super interested to see kind of how ICP unfolds over the next little while. We'll see. Who knows, right? I mean, so far, there's no kind of arguing with the fact that price performance has been incredibly weak. But hopefully, you know, the things that they've done recently will kind of change that a bit. But again, only time will tell. Let's see. I hold a lot of Turbo. Maybe if you have time, you can check it out. Yeah, we might be able to check it out. Turbo is cool. I think Turbo is good. I hold massive bags of XRP and ICP. I don't really have much XRP, but I do have a decent bit of ICP. How my crystal ball never let me down. Mohammed, did you steal mine? Because I've seemingly misplaced mine. I don't know where it is. So yeah, still looking for my crystal ball here. I've lost it. Let's see. Mohammed, you're very entertaining. I always love reading the messages in here. Let's see. Yeah, no, not a problem. Happy to discuss. I do really like Cookie DAO, so I think it's cool. Curve DAO is cool. Yeah, I think Curve is interesting. So Curve, Pendle, what are the other ones? Maker, I guess that's now Sky or something like that. All of the DeFi things. I actually think DeFi is going to have a pretty nice time. Uniswap, I think, is kind of moving into that range. Even though they start as a DEX, I feel like they can be kind of considered more of a full suite DeFi type of product. So I think Uniswap's really cool. I do think that the DeFi, particularly on Ethereum, if I had to guess, is going to have a pretty nice time in this upcoming bull run. Again, who knows, but we'll have to see. So let's see. 2000 ICP staked. Nice. Yeah, congratulations. I don't have quite that much, but definitely a fan of ICP for sure. So cool. Well, that's what we've got from comments so far. So I'll kind of continue to run through here. Maybe we'll take a look at some charts. Actually, let me pull up BTCC, because I think that's where all my stuff is charted, or like most of my stuff is charted. So I won't have to rechart everything if I do it on TradingView. So let's start with ICP. This one will be first. I don't know, maybe BTCC deleted all my charting. I don't know, that's super annoying. But okay, well, in that case, let me just chart it on. That's market cap. I do not want to do that. Okay, yeah, so ICP, here we go. Let's pull this up and we'll take a quick look at ICP. Let's see. All right, so we can see here things looking okay for ICP generally. Obviously, you know, we've seen a decent move to the upside, are not overbought yet, which is good, I guess. Does mean we have some potential to keep moving up. We do see here, we did kind of peak up into this like $6 range. Really got smacked. We got smacked down here, you know, and so now we're facing a bit of a rejection. This is generally not good news for ICP. If we look here and we go and pull like a horizontal line, you can see this has been a historically really difficult level of resistance here. You can see 1, 2, 3, and now potentially 4 times that we've been rejected. So this $6 and like essentially like the low $6, $6.10 to like $6.30, $6.40, that range has been quite difficult for ICP, and it appears like it might have been rejected again. So that, of course, is not a good thing. But we'll have to see how it goes. One thing that I will say, I actually saw a comment in here talking about, yeah, right here, ICP needs stable coins. I agree. And I actually, can't tell you who, but I got a leak from the other day. This was kind of near the Caffeine AI release, but let me go find it and I can read it to you guys. Just so you can kind of hear some of the things that are going on. This person works at Definity. I won't say in which capacity or anything like that, but this person works at Definity, and this is kind of the leak that they had given me. So let's see. Okay, so yeah, so I can give you some anonymous alpha. If caffeine launches an AI store, likely people will need a wallet to get paid into. Might make sense if Definity used Oizy under the hood for that, which is like that's their wallet. I think that's fairly obvious. And then here we can say this is kind of where the real alpha comes from. So Definity is internally putting a focus on stable coins, and you can let's see, yeah, and basically you can see that they have like the VCHF, which is like kind of their stable coin of the Swiss franc to support this. And then essentially, like if they're starting to support stable coins, they're trying to move like toward fiat, we could see that like it would make sense to earn like in stables, right? So they could have some like stable coin staking, things like that. And then of course, they'd be looking to facilitate a lot of that through the Oizy wallet. So yeah, pretty interesting. You can kind of see some of that type of stuff. It sounds like, to me at least, we can see like and then here they also said that some of the team is going to be pushing a tweet saying something like, if you've been paying attention over the past few weeks, what's coming won't be a surprise. So essentially that's essentially giving some indication that stable coins are indeed coming to ICP. Again, this is a leak, this is a rumor, so this is not confirmed at all, but this person is, I would say, is probably pretty reliable. So I'm not going to be kind of counting out what they're saying. So potentially some pretty good things there, kind of to up into the right's comments. We might be getting some stable coins coming onto ICP, which I think is obviously very, very good news. So again, if you're watching, like, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on X, like, retweet, repost, whatever they're calling it these days. Obviously does help kind of get it pushed out to more people. Follow me as well if you're interested in a whole bunch of different kind of content. I usually do post all my YouTube videos on X, as well as just various other type of like content and stuff. So if you are interested in following me for more kind of like off the cuff stuff that's not as like more like scripted long form content, X would be the place to do that. So thanks for the tip on trading. I'm still new, so learning a lot. Just a bag holder at this point. Hopefully I'll get to the point where I do some trading. I think that's totally fair. Again, not financial advice. Make your own decisions. You take responsibility for your own money, all that type of stuff. But I was very much the same way. Trading is something that is very, very difficult, and you can very easily, particularly if you're leverage trading, really lose your shirt. So if you're not really comfortable with what you're doing, just watch, learn, wait till you're ready. Honestly, I would say, and again, maybe this is me kind of like, this is my own opinion, and I could very much be wrong for this opinion in the future, right? But like, now is a really, really good time. And that's kind of the whole reason for this title, right? Like, confirmed, alt season is coming, do this or miss out. The do this is learn, ready, understand, because what's going to be happening is if/when we do get into a real full-on alt season, everybody's going to be throwing money in random places trying to like hit the next 100x, right? If you know what you're doing and have been paying attention for all of these months when it's been boring, you're going to be ready, and you're going to kind of have a pretty good idea of how that works and what happens, and you'll be able to take advantage of it, right? You'll be able to leverage trade potentially on narratives that you think are strong. And while everybody's making 2, 3, 4x on some of these trades, you might be making 20, 30, 40x because you're leverage trading it and you understand what you're doing. Now, of course, that does come with an added level of risk, and that's why you need to understand what you're doing and really, really make sure that you're prepared for this type of thing. So yeah, just really make sure, like, study, learn, make sure, like, maybe test, like all this type of stuff to make sure that you like are understanding what you're doing, and then go from there. So let's see. Yeah, no, not a problem, James. Happy to share. Yeah, really interested to see how ICP does over the next several weeks. I'm hopeful that it does well and we continue to see price go, but the level and magnitude of rejection that we've got is tough in the short term. Again, long term, not sure if it matters too much, but in the short term, it does feel at least a little bit bad. HBAR partners with Definity, Anthropic partners with Definity. What do they have in common? Google, AWS, MS announcement, 100 million in Swiss-based blockchain AI cloud infrastructure. Yeah, we'll have to see. You know, I mean, obviously there's lots of speculation kind of coming around here. I do think, I hope that over some period of time that the tech kind of gets recognized for what it is. We'll have to see for sure. Here we've got a H-bar to 150. Maybe. I would be very surprised by that just because the market cap would be insane. But maybe. We'll see. All right, let's see. 9 to Freedom. Hi, Kid. What makes you confident alt season is coming? Do you also have a trigger when? I'm assuming trigger meaning like when I am like confirmed that like alt season is coming, right? I think it's impossible to say like alt season is coming if this thing happens. I think it's kind of an aggregation of things, an accumulation of things. I've been over this kind of somewhat in some past and previous videos. Let me just kind of pull up a super quick kind of overview of the things that I am looking for as it relates to alt season coming. So first one, we've already been over it in this stream, ETH Bitcoin. ETH Bitcoin is obviously very important here, right? We're starting to see this turn from a downtrend to an uptrend. This is fundamentally very bullish, at least historically. Everything starts and ends with Ethereum, if you are concerned as far as like altcoins, right? Next, total to market cap. We have not seen a breakout to all-time highs yet. If/when we do see a breakout to all-time highs, we're in price discovery, we can see a really nice move to the upside coming. Again, potentially, nothing's guaranteed in life. We are seeing some strong momentum. We reversed this again. We were in a downtrend. We reversed. We're now in an uptrend. Let's keep it rolling, right? We're starting to see Bitcoin dominance. Let's go and take a look at Bitcoin dominance. This needs to start to trend down, right? I mean, that is another thing that needs to happen. So let's take a look. Wow, Bitcoin dominance has really started to move down. It looks akin to this, right? Is it going to look like this and then we see another kind of slow grind up? Maybe. We don't know, right? But we're seeing like all of these fundamental things. Look at this again. We cannot be sure that this is not a fake out. So just know that for sure. But this is a trend that has been relatively unbroken other than what we saw in the December-January timeframe, which is a little bit of a false start. What we've seen here is an otherwise unbroken trend for like 2.5 to 3 years, right? So we've actually broken down. Bitcoin dominance is falling. We are now at 61%. Our highs were up at like 65, 66%. So if this continues to fall, you can see here we're now pushing at levels that we were seeing kind of like back in we had that little bit of rotation in May. Again, this was very much a little bit of like a false start here. And now, but what you can see is the Bitcoin dominance is actually still at levels above what we saw back in November before we had that alt season rotation. So I do think that we could potentially see a couple more further moves down. If we were to kind of technical analysis this thing, there's a couple of different levels at which we'd be looking at. This is probably one. You can see again, kind of this range is probably going to be more like here to here. So we're getting close to that. I think that would probably be the next thing that we're looking at. The next thing after that would be something kind of in this range generally, again, kind of like here to here. You guys probably can kind of see the zones that I'm kind of mapping around, and then here kind of being the final boss, I would say, at kind of that level. So if we look, that's kind of the roadmap for alt season, right? Is we'd probably, in order to confirm alt season's coming, we'd probably need to drop below this point, but also at that point, like we've already seen a massive drop. So hard to say exactly for sure. But if you look in the past, look at what we saw here with previous alt seasons. I mean, here we go from like 73 all the way down to like less than 40 in the span of like a couple months, right? So that's probably what we'd be looking to see here. Again, we are starting to see a lot of these same type of things break. In addition to that, again, this is something that actually we have not seen before. But if we look at like the, let me remove this really quick. But if we look at like the ETFs are doing really well. We have altcoin ETFs potentially coming. That to me could be the spark that kind of sets off this whole alt season rotation, in my opinion. And then also we have, ETH ETF doing better than it has been. If you're interested, subscribe, turn on notifications. That video comes out in like 5 hours, I think, something like that. But you'll be able to learn a little bit about the Ethereum trends that we're seeing and why Ethereum's starting to flip and why that's so good for alt season. We're also starting to see, obviously the Bitcoin ETF continues to grind on. Institutions are really starting to kind of flip towards Ethereum and really adopt more Ethereum there. There's a lot of different things going on here that I think are really important. So that's kind of the condensed-ish version of all the things that I'm seeing that make us closer to alt season. So let's see here. Can we review the Celestia chart? Yeah, we can do that here in a second. Let me go pull that up and I'll look at some other comments while it's loading up. Celestia USD. Okay. Okay. ICP is one of the best long-term investments. IMO, just accumulating rewards daily for my staking. A few years from now, we're going to be laughing. Yeah, I think ICP is definitely, it's a long-term for sure, which long-term in crypto generally are kind of like an oxymoron. So I think that could be part of the reason we're seeing some struggling there. But yeah, I do think that ICP long-term is very good. So do you think XCN will do good this year? Hard to say. So the way I view XCN kind of, and maybe this is too simplistic, but I see it as kind of like a XLM, XRP type of beta play. So since we are seeing XRP hitting all-time highs, since we have seen XLM make crazy runs, it would not be shocking to me if we saw another pretty decently sized run from XCN. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm not guaranteeing anything because I don't know, but that's kind of how I generally view XCN, and it seems like it moves off of similar type of stuff. So I would maybe keep an eye on that. Again, we don't know exactly what's going to happen or when. Give me a second. I'm going to take a drink of water. All right. But yeah, so I'm not guaranteeing anything in terms of when or where or anything like that, but that is kind of like how I'm viewing that. Manlaw, really appreciate the super chat. That's very, very generous and very generous of you. And I do appreciate it. Obviously I like talking to everybody and I like just kind of hanging out with all of you. So yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Okay. Coming back to Amen Muhammad Celestia. All right, here we are. This is the Celestia chart. We look here on the Celestia chart, not looking good, honestly. Celestia's basically been down only. We're actually below some of the lows that we saw back in 2023. It's actually never been lower than kind of what we've seen here. Celestia is kind of the similar type of thing, right? I mean, Celestia was like a DA type of deal. And it's like, it works with the like Cosmos ecosystem. This whole type of thing is like, this is very Cosmos, right? Like it does well at basically moons because it's this novel invention and idea that people really haven't seen or heard of before. And then everybody else copies them and it basically sells off to zero. So it does suck. It does kind of suck that Celestia's had such a difficult run. Again, as I've mentioned, I think in an alt season, everything will go up. So I'm not saying that Celestia can't, but I do think that Celestia was such a narrative play, right? I mean, it was the DA, that like the decentralized aggregation layer, all that type of stuff. Like we're kind of past that. That song has been sung. So I personally don't have huge hopes for Celestia, at least kind of like in like what's going to win big. In my opinion, it's all about AI. That kind of seems to be the narrative to end all narratives, at least for right now. So that's kind of how I'm viewing Celestia. Again, it could come back and it probably will if we get into an alt season, but that's not to say that it's going to do well, right? So that's kind of my opinion and my thoughts on Celestia there. Yeah, for what it's worth. So, alrighty. I will also say I'm not super into Celestia, right? So I'm not super into like all of the new things that they've got going on. It's just for me from like a high level crypto perspective. If normies are coming in and buying cryptos, like unless the narrative is like DA layer and stuff like that, I just don't see people like being like, oh yeah, Celestia, that's cool. I see people thinking like, oh, Sui's done well, or XRP, it's like the American coin. HBAR, it's like the American coin, but like smaller than XRP, so I could make more money. It's Ethereum, it's whatever. Like those are the types of things that I see kind of winning a little bit harder than something like Celestia. Again, agree or disagree, but that's kind of my thoughts. Let's see. Agree with James. I've taken the red pill. I use my staking rewards for Bob mining and fun AI mining. The whole ecosystem can be gamified in ways no other chain can do. Yeah, I thought the Bob mining was pretty cool. I know that the price of Bob has kind of cooled off a little bit, but I do think the Bob mining was interesting, and it was a novel way to burn a ridiculous amount of ICP, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, no, completely agree. I think good days are ahead. I'm very optimistic of what we're going to see, hopefully potentially in the future. Yeah, definitely hopeful for that. So let's see here what's going to happen. All righty. Not sure if I've covered Solana yet. Not covered Solana yet. We can get to that here in a second. Excited for the future. Yeah, I think ICP great, but also just crypto in general. I think crypto in general has a very, very bright future. All righty, let's see. Andy and Wolf are the most highly correlated beta plays to ETH on the market. They're like an on-chain leverage bet on ETH with no risk of liquidation. Yeah, yes, but again, like this is actually a great time to kind of dive into this a little bit more. I think you are right, but there's like levels of risk in crypto, right? And this is where I think some people can get misconstrued. Yes, it is a leverage play, meaning if it goes up, it's going to go way up, and if it goes down, it's going to go way down. But there is no guarantee that if it goes up, it will also go up, right? So again, this is like layers of risk as you go down kind of the crypto stack, right? So we'll quickly do a coverage on this. I've talked about this at various points before. I don't think I've talked about it in a while, so it's probably a good time for a refresher for anybody who's heard it before, or for anybody who's new to hear it for the first time. So the first thing essentially to think about with kind of the layers of risk in crypto, right, is the first thing is you kind of have like the market wide risk. So this is effectively like, if we're thinking stocks, this would be like an index fund, right? If the market does well, it goes up. If the market does bad, it goes down. You're essentially exposed to the market as a whole. So if some black swan event happens, you're going to lose money. You could be invested in the best thing. You could be invested in the worst thing. You're going to lose money. That is just the risk that you take being invested in the market generally. Then the second risk you're going to be taking is essentially like asset specific risk, right? Is Ethereum going to outperform Bitcoin? Is Bitcoin going to outperform Solana? Is Solana going to outperform ICP? Is ICP going to outperform SUI? This is all a second layer of risk, right? Well, now we've got the third layer of risk below that, where essentially, because in crypto, it's like in the stock market, that's usually where it stops, right? Kind of. I mean, there's some nuance, but I don't want to get into it. So then in crypto, you kind of have like a third layer of risk below that. And you could potentially even say there's a fourth layer below that, but we'll kind of stop at the third layer. And the third layer is picking a winner on a winner, right? So for example, going back to like my earlier meme coin plays or my earlier meme coin calls, that would be something like picking BloFin, right? Probably. So not only are you in the crypto market, so you have the crypto risk. Not only are you in SUI, so you have the SUI risk. If the SUI chain blows up tomorrow, it's very likely that LoFi also blows up with it. Going a third layer down is you are now having the LoFi risk specifically. So there is a world in which crypto could do well. That's like the first lever, right? There is also a world in which SUI could do well in the world of crypto. Okay, that's the second lever. But now also to essentially make money on the SUI side or the LoFi side, you now also need LoFi to do well within the SUI world, right? So there's kind of three things that have to happen to be true, where if you're invested in something like Bitcoin, again, this isn't exactly like a one-to-one comparison, right? But let's just say Bitcoin is kind of like the S&P 500 of crypto. Well, if you're invested in Bitcoin, like you're just like, if the market goes up, it goes up. If it goes down, it goes down. That is pretty much how it is like being in Bitcoin. If you're in LoFi, like that can happen, but LoFi can still lose money, right? So there's like, it's just a lot more risk and there's different layers of risk. And so I think people inaccurately classify the risk that they're taking by saying it's a leverage play. No, it's not. A leverage play is a leverage play on ETH specifically, right? If you want to leverage play on ETH, leverage trade ETH. Yes, you have the chance of getting liquidated, but there is also the world if you take a leverage play like this where ETH can win, you can still go to zero. Like that is 100% an outcome that is viable. So not to call you out any like too specifically on anything. I just want to clarify that because there are like, I do hear this now and again, and I think it's a bit of a misnomer that I wanted to kind of clarify just a little bit. Do you have an idea of the target for Jupiter? Not really. I don't really do too much with Solana ecosystem stuff. I think Solana is fine, but I have some skepticism on the actual use case of some of the things in Solana, right? I haven't really seen anything that is super valuable. I mean, like Jupiter's good because it's got like the aggregation. So I guess I'll exclude Jupiter from that. There are also a lot of like DePIN things, but I think there's a lot of like, we struggle to see some of the like wide case adoption for stuff in Solana other than like pump.fun. I think that's kind of been Solana's niche so far, which so far has been an incredibly profitable niche. So I'm not hating on it, but I do think that like, I just don't, there's so many things to focus on in crypto. I don't really focus too hard on like, frankly, the DeFi stuff generally. I think DeFi is awesome, but DeFi is one of those things that's like wildly complicated. And so I try not to invest in things I don't understand, and understanding DeFi is like really hard. I was at ETH Denver in 2023 and I went to a DeFi like side event, like meet and greet type of deal. And the things they were talking about, I think I'm pretty well versed within the crypto space, but it just goes to show you how vast the crypto space is. Like some of the things they were talking about, I was like, what are you even saying? So yeah, I generally try to stay away from things I don't understand. I guess is kind of the TLDR here. And that is Jupiter. It kind of, falls into one of those. So that's kind of it. Also, it's one of those kind of risk to reward. I think Jupiter has already seen major upside. That's not to say it can't see more, but I'm a bit more of a degen in the sense that I like to look for some lower market cap stuff. All right, Luis, welcome back. It's good to see you. See, just say the following word, Toshi. All right, there you go. Yes, Toshi is one. This is the one on base, right? Confirm that one for me, because I actually met the founder of Toshi, if we're talking about the same one. And cool guy. He's Dutch. Yeah, he's cool. He had some big plans for Toshi. I actually met him at ETH Denver in 2023 as well. So yeah, definitely cool guy. ICP to $9. I would love that. That would hopefully just be the start. But yeah, it would be great to see. I do think if we can break past this kind of point of resistance that we were looking at when we were checking out the ICP chart, yeah, obviously we've gotten absolutely slammed down on it. But if we can, then I do think that, that will be a major move for the ICP chart. So Casper's another good one. This is one on kaspa, right? This is the other problem with cryptos. There's like 1,000 different names, or 1,000 of the same names, but they're in different things. If we're talking about Casper on kaspa, yeah, that's the same type of thing. If kaspa does well, it could absolutely rock it, but it's super high risk. XCN has big things coming towards the end of the year. Yeah, and the other thing, I'm not sure if you might have seen my video earlier on in the week regarding XCN. But XCN, there's the good news that the U.S. government is now recognizing the ISO 20022 coins as like legit, basically, right? And so XCN's one of those, XOM's one of those, XRP's one of those. So really good stuff there that I think is great. So Harmony One, man, it's been a minute since I've heard that one. Same thing with Sandbox. These are all like last cycle stuff, but yeah, Harmony One have not really seen or heard much from at all. Sandbox, same. I really like the metaverse stuff. I think is so cool, and I really have hopes and dreams that it will come to fruition at some point. We'll just have to see. I think there's so much that needs to happen from like a foundation layer to get some of this stuff enabled. Just kind of seeing it kind of unfold over the past little while, but I really do have some high hopes for the metaverse. Again, Decentraland, Sandbox, others that we don't even know of yet. Who knows? Vivi was another one that was like NFT collectible type things, trying to sort of play into that metaverse type of deal. There's a whole bunch of different things that have come around. So AVAX, I like AVAX. AVAX, I feel like AVAX is kind of like the like unofficial like kind of gaming play. Obviously, I know it doesn't just do gaming, but I feel like a lot of people kind of view AVAX as kind of like the gaming chain. Um, we had a really tough time with gaming so far. I do think crypto gaming has its place in the world too. I've never really quite understood why you'd buy something that you don't own. And so I think having like that ownership component of it would be great. But from a pure profitability perspective, it's not really great for the game developers, right? I mean, a lot of the reasons that they sell stuff is because they can make more money. And so when you're capping the or you're limiting the stuff that you can sell and then giving the upside to the gamers, well, that's good for the gamers. That's not necessarily what's best for the development company itself. So that's the thing that we also have to consider is it's a little bit of like a difficult proposition there. What's up, Bugatti? Welcome into the stream. What stocks do I recommend? Yeah, I've been doing some stuff with stocks recently, but it's hard to say, like, again, not financial advice. This is just me trading and doing my own stuff and whatnot. But I really wanted to get into Circle. I like had my like alarm set and everything to like for when the IPO went, it like immediately rocketed, and I was like, all right, still haven't gotten into Circle because that one's tough. I don't know. I'm really not buying too many, like picking individual stocks. I've been buying into some Google. I think Google's got an interest. Like people are kind of like bearish on it because of like the Chat GPT and them losing like their search revenue and stuff like that. I don't know. Like I think Google's got a lot of other crazy things coming down the pipeline that I think it's okay. I also think Google still does kind of have a massive user base and a really strong productivity suite. So if they can figure out how to compete with Chat GPT, like it still could work out fine. Rocket Lab's another one, but that one's tough. Like, I don't know that I would even buy into that one right now personally, just because like it's up almost 10x since I bought it. So yeah, that one's tough. Real Caribbean's another one I bought into during COVID. I'm up like 10x on that one. That one was like best in class stock. But again, it's just so high. So it's really hard to say like, will it keep going up or will it go down? It's hard. The stock market is kind of in the same place that some of these crypto coins are in, where it's like they're just mooning and there's no real structure that they're trading within quite yet. And so it's really hard to just like buy into stuff because it feels like you're just spinning the wheel. You're not taking a good trade because it makes sense. So anyway, let's see. Oh, here we got some more. We got some more price predictions from Muhammad. DOT to 400, Uniswap to or file to 75, Uniswap to 300, Atom to 200 guarantee. All right. Well, yeah, DOT. That's an interesting one. But yeah, I mean, all those, I think they're all good coins. I think your price predictions are maybe a little crazy, but we'll have to see. And then thanks. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Muhammad always with the price predictions, which is great. Let's see, Cookie and XCM definitely expecting big things. Yeah, I think so. I think both of them are really good. One thing I will actually mention, kind of before we transition into some of these others, because looks like we've got some other comments rolling in, is I wanted to discuss Simple AI a little bit, because that's one I know that was brought up much earlier on in the stream. So I want to do that before I forget, because that one I do think is actually pretty interesting. As I have mentioned, Simple AI is an AI coin. I am very bullish and convicted in my belief that we're going to see AI narratives themselves do really quite well. So I think that there's a world in which we continue to see it push forward, right? And so I'm actually going to show you what we've got. So again, this is the same type of thing, like this is the same type of thing I want to talk about earlier, where it's like, is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? We have no idea, right? Well, it's actually come down a little bit since we saw prices move yesterday, but it's like up almost 100%. It's up 84% within the past 7 days. It's really started to find some traction. A lot more people, like I've been noticing on like X and stuff, like a lot more people are taking notice and like really interested in what's going on here. So you can see a tiny market cap of 4 million here. So really strong, really strong pick and really strong play, in my opinion. Of course, there's no guarantees in life, but this is essentially a play similar to like TARS AI or maybe Pinlink to a degree. Pinlink went to 500 million market cap at its all-time high. TARS did, I think, like 220, 230 million at its all-time high. It's kind of like 0x0. This is another one that's done quite well. So let's look at 0x0. 0x0. So I think it's this one. But you can see here they're sitting at 77. If we look at max on the market cap, that was 438 million. So it's competing in a space with a lot of really, really massively successful coins. And so to me, the fact that like it's such a low price and it's got such a great team, if you don't believe me, which you shouldn't, right? Do your own research, do all this type, like don't just blindly trust people on YouTube, all that type of stuff. Go check out their Twitter. Like they're constantly shipping just new stuff, and they've got partnerships rolling. They've got a whole bunch of different things happening. So in my opinion, Simple is one that has a massive asymmetric upside. Now, again, full disclaimer, I do own Simple AI. Let me be very clear about that. Obviously I own it. Like if I'm convicted in something, I'm going to own it, right? Same thing. Like I own ICP. I'm convicted in ICP. So just so you guys know, full disclaimer, I am actually pumping my bags, but you know, I'm not trying to like, have any sort of exit liquidity going on. I just think that this is a really good play and a really good token. So up to you, kind of make your own decisions there, do what you want. But I did want to talk a little bit about Simple AI before we kind of moved on to some other stuff. So here we got next one, thoughts on Ondo. Ondo, I think, is really good. So Ondo is one that I've talked about before in the sense that like, I think the idea itself in a vacuum is really good and makes a lot of sense. The problem with Ondo is I have somewhat of a hard time believing that the institutions, which are essentially what Ondo is made for, right, will give up a lot of this like control over their like exotics, like their exotic assets and things like that. So we'll have to see. Really, really hard to say, but I do really like Ondo. I think Ondo's another asymmetric upside play. If you guys haven't figured it out yet, you're probably realizing that I very much prefer these like asymmetric upside plays, right? What does that mean? Well, it means I'm either going to like lose probably 50 to 70%, or I'm going to make like 10x minimum, right? Is kind of how I look at this type of thing. And if you make enough of those plays, you can lose 60% of the plays that you make and still come out way, way, way ahead, right? So that's generally kind of what I'm looking to do there. I think Ondo's a good one. Ondo is one that I only have actually don't even think I have a bag of Ondo, but I do regularly trade in and out of Ondo because I do think that it's a really good coin to kind of trade through. Confirmed market taking since bill was signed. Yeah, look at what's happened the past week, though, I guess. Anyway, moving on. Flow Ave. Yeah, both good ones. Again, more DeFi stuff. I really think DeFi is going to have a really big run. Yes, indeed. Welcome back. I always appreciate you tuning in. Yes, indeed, as well. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Also, everybody, watching, hit the like button on YouTube, hit the heart button if you're on X. We'll try and get this pushed out to more people, and we'll, kind of keep chatting through stuff. So I am streaming on both YouTube and X. So, can check out the other one if you're on the other platform as well, if you're looking to kind of follow me on different platforms. So if ICP gets stable coins, that's so massively bullish, great alpha. Yeah. I think I was really happy that the person had told me that, because I do think that stable coins on ICP are a massive hole that we're seeing currently, especially if we look at the adoption of stable coins. That's actually one thing that I didn't even mention when I was giving my thesis for alt season is the amount of stable coin onboarding is ridiculous, right? And so I've been pretty impressed just to see what's happened there. Dave Portnoy sold XRP at 240, hit 360 just weeks later. Yeah, that's crypto for you. To have a seller, there's always a buyer, and to have a buyer, there's always a seller, and generally one of them is wrong. So would I pick Ondo over Chainlink? one's really tough, honestly. Like Chainlink is this weird, in my opinion, this weird mud monster of like kind of everything doing everything. I don't really ever know what Chainlink is trying to do from one week to the next, because it feels like they just have so many things going on. And I think Chainlink is a really, really strong project and a strong company. So I don't know. I almost view them as different things. Like Ondo's like the kind of small upside play, and Chainlink is kind of one of those like institutional, like it's like it almost feels like institutional grade, like in terms of like an investment level. What I mean by that is primarily like with, like, for example, kind of if we go back to our recent example of like Simple AI, I was actually talking to somebody in my private Discord earlier today about this. If you're interested, again, link in the descriptions, or it's also pinned on my account if you're watching from X. But the thing is like you have to kind of understand the like ladder of crypto, right? So for something like Simple AI, where it has a market cap of 4 million, the people getting in and out of that coin are probably going to be individuals like us. Somebody that can get into something like Chainlink, like if I had a crypto investment fund, like I could get into Chainlink, right? Especially if I had like $200 million. If I had $200 million, odds are I'm not getting into Simple AI, because it's just not a big enough fish for me to really care right now, right? And so that's why I like these somewhat small plays like Simple AI, is because it gives you, it kind of gives you that upside, because the institutions aren't getting in yet, and then they will potentially eventually. With something like Chainlink, if I have a $200 million fund, like I can exit in and out of Chainlink pretty easily, because the liquidity is there and the liquidity is deep enough. For something like Simple AI, the liquidity is not deep enough and the volume is not there for me to be trading in and out in massive positions. So that's kind of like the stepping stone of these like projects. So when they're small, obviously, much, much greater upside, but also much greater risk. And then when they're large, it's less upside, but it's also less risk. And there's also more liquidity, which is incredibly important for large institutions that are looking to get in. So for example, even some of the like majorly sized institutions, like something like a SUI potentially, where it's like 14 billion, like that might be small for a company like that to enter into with size, just because if they're a large fund, like they could buy up the entire supply, right? So that is the thing that's kind of really important to note with crypto, is the size really does matter. And so I view Ondo and Chainlink a little bit differently, because Chainlink to me feels more institution grade. Ondo maybe not quite yet. We're going to be looking more at like hedge funds and maybe like smaller funds. And then if over time it kind of continues to grow, then we could start to get some of these larger funds that could be investing with something like Chainlink. So I don't have Discord, Instagram, etc. How can I learn more from you? I'm on X. Discord, or just stay tuned, like, subscribe, watch my videos. That's probably the best way. Yeah, I don't really have many other platforms that I'm on right now. I'm really just trying to focus on producing like the best content that I can on YouTube and X, and then from there, maybe I'll find an Instagram or a TikTok or things like that. And then of course I do have my Discord, where I'm there for kind of more answering questions whenever you have them. So trying to convince myself to love Avalanche. I love what they're doing, but they just can't get any traction in this market. Yeah, honestly, I think to me, I view Avalanche very similarly to ICP. Like what they're doing is cool. I think the team's good. I think they're legit. I don't really see any reason to doubt them, but for whatever reason, price just won't move, So I kind of view them somewhat similarly, unfortunately. Is there supposedly a partnership with Say and Ondo? Was on X a few days ago. I did not see that, but I actually have not kept up with like Say and Ondo much recently, just because there's been so much happening within the market. I've kind of been focused primarily on ICP, kaspa, zbcn, Onyx Coin, Ethereum. Those are kind of like the big ones, and then kind of broad market, like where are we going big picture direction wise. Appreciate it. Of course. Yeah, no, always happy to answer questions. I really like kind of the interaction and chatting with you guys. And answering questions as we have them. Most questions are coming from YouTube, but anybody who is watching on X, you can feel free, of course, to post questions and things like that. Let me actually take a look, and I'm going to join my own spaces to see if I'm like somehow missing comments or something, but I don't think so, but yeah, it doesn't look like it. Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. So yeah, I'm like ignoring all the people on X, but yeah, it looks like we're good there. So otherwise, yeah, I mean, we've got yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. I don't know that there's a whole lot to go on more from here. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, we've got the Genius Act and the Clarity Act and all those things. Those are officially signed, so that's good to see. Let's see. Beam and FET. Yeah, Beam is one that I hear talked about a lot. That's one that, again, I've kind of like just ignored generally. FET, that is one that I actually think is going to be very, very interesting. Again, kind of with the AI plays, that's one that I think is kind of more like ground level AI that I think could be pretty interesting. So definitely bullish on FET. I've heard like a lot of people are bullish on Beam, but again, I've kind of, if you haven't realized from this from the live stream today, I'm pretty particular and pretty specific about what I choose to pay attention to, because in my opinion, focus is everything. So if you are trying to keep track of 100 coins a day, like it's just not really going to work out too well, right? So you have to kind of pick 5, 10, maybe 20 if you're like really crazy and in it full time and all this type of stuff, and just like really understand them and know what they're doing, watch them, monitor them, keep up, like all of that type of stuff. To me, less is more, definitely in this type of market. Now, obviously, don't bury your head in the sand and keep up with trends and things that are going on, but less is definitely more for sure, in my opinion. Been in crypto since November, learned a ton from you and Doc. Oh, cool. Yeah, no, Doc's fantastic. I love Doc. He's really good. Both of us kind of started our crypto or our YouTube journeys at similar times. And so it's been fun to kind of share thoughts with him. And, you know, if he finds something that does well, I'll do it. And if I do find something that does well, he'll do it. We generally kind of share thoughts with various projects that we're working or we're looking at, and all this type of stuff. So yeah, Doc's fantastic. He is a top quality influencer in my opinion. So, all righty. Thank you. Appreciate the thoughts. Yeah, of course. Yeah, really happy to kind of share the thoughts that I have and the knowledge that I have, and you know, kind of hopefully you guys get something from it. You know, that's the goal here. So let's see, price target for ICP. We've been over this a couple times already this stream, so I'll keep it pretty short, but I think probably this run probably in like the mid 40s to 50s best case. After that, we're looking probably, you know, that's only if we can return to all-time highs. Otherwise, you know, let's see how quickly we can return to all-time highs, and then from there maybe like 20 to 30. If we see what I would say like an extenuating circumstance where like caffeine AI or something like that really has like a cursor moment and goes viral, and then of course throw everything out the window, and you know, we'll just kind of have to see where it goes from there. But I think that is definitely like, that's the exception, not the rule. So yeah, really, you know, totally welcome, Roha. Happy to do it. I'm probably going to wrap the stream up now just because we are coming on an hour and a half. Really appreciate, you know, getting to talk with you guys and hang out. Again, like, subscribe, push this out to more people. I know that there's a lot of people who actually do watch these kind of after the fact. So, you know, if any engagement that you can give that kind of helps me push that out further, really appreciate that. Also, you know, if you are looking to leverage trade or wanted to even just accumulate spot bags, anything like that, I do have those links to both BloFin as well as BTCC in the description below if you are interested. I also do have, maybe I'll show you guys the trading bot. This is something that I actually personally am really like, I'm super bullish on. I think it's awesome. I've actually been using this for a while now, and the quant firm that had developed this bot actually gave me like my own bot that I could help like, or that I could like provide to my community. So there are only 200 spots, not many people in so far, only one person's joined, which is fine. But the spots are limited if you are looking to get in. You can see here the annualized ROI so far has been almost 400%. It's been like a real 31% so far, but then if you annualize it, because it hasn't been running for over a year, you can see here the max drawdown is only 6.68%. This is really, really good if you have, like, if you're familiar with like kind of how bots work. A low drawdown is really good news. And then you can see also here the Sharpe ratio. Again, if you're more like kind of in the finance or investment space, you'll know what that means, and you'll realize that that's pretty impressive. So if you are interested, use my link in the description below. You can sign up via BloFin. You have to sign up using my link in order to get access to this bot. But yeah, this is one of those things that just trades for you. It only trades Bitcoin. You can see here, it only does Bitcoin. It's got a 100% win rate, which is pretty impressive. And then, yeah, it's done great over time. So if you are interested, of course, it's a trading bot. There's risk in all things. There is no such thing as guaranteed money. So you can lose money for sure. But if you are interested and want to give it a try, feel free. Check it out in the description below and see what you think. So, but yeah, those are going to be for more of the people who are a little bit more like wanting to be more hands-off, and kind of, maybe it's like if you're new and you're trying to learn, you want to be a little hands-off, could be an interesting option for you. So, all right, great. Yeah, have a great weekend as well, Dreadnought, and everybody else watching. Hopefully you guys found the information useful. Again, that's kind of my primary aim, is I'm wanting to kind of help spread some knowledge and help people be, kind of more successful in the crypto space. Of course, I can't do it for you. You do have to make your own decisions and, be accountable for your own decisions and actions and money and all that type of stuff. But hopefully I can at least help give you some differing perspectives of what you might be seeing in the market. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, Ronald. I know you've been around a lot, so I appreciate all of the continued support from all of you. Really appreciate that you guys like my views and opinions on crypto. I try to stay pretty measured with things and not be too crazy and with any takes or the other. But yeah, just trying to give a pretty balanced take on where I see the crypto market at. But really, really appreciate all of your guys' time. And we'll see you in the next one. So thanks for tuning in, everybody.